I just finished Kate Quinn's The Briar Club, and this is my review. This is a little bit different than books that I normally review on here. This was recommended to me by my aunt. The genre it's a historical fiction book. It's got a little bit of mystery to it, but the thing that really stood out to me about this book is just the character development. This book has great character development. So let's get into it a little bit. So what is it about? First question. It's about these women in 1950s Washington, D.C. who all live in a boarding house, a female-only boarding house in Washington, D.C., and they all have these really complex backstories and these really interesting reasons for why they've ended up in this boarding house, why they're in D.C., and then what they do. It's kind of around that time, post-World War II, where the women were in the workforce and now they're sort of getting phased out, and it's this really confusing time for women where they can work, but they're being encouraged not to, which kind of adds to that complexity of these female characters who are kind of at that age where they're not married and they're not, at home, but they're trying to figure out where life is going for them, which is, it just makes it such an interesting dynamic for all of these women because they all have such different goals in life. I would recommend this book to certain people who like books that are, maybe I should just pick some books I think this was similar to and make a recommendation based off of that. I don't think this book is for everyone. I loved it. It's not a book I would normally pick up, but I really enjoyed it. It got selected for my book club, but it was also recommended to me by my aunt who really loves this author. If you enjoyed The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I would say the writing style is very similar and the plot setup is also very similar to that book, in that as you're reading, you're learning more about the characters, like piece by piece, and how the story is kind of coming together in the end, which I think The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo does really well. And this book is kind of very similar to that, except for there's a lot more characters happening instead of just the two in Evelyn Hugo. So if you kind of really enjoyed that writing style and then that kind of plot formation, definitely I'm going to recommend this book, because this is very similar to, I think, the writing style of that book. And there's probably some thematic similarities between that book, because a lot of this is about women and their secrets in 1950, and who they can be in public, who they can be in private. So I would say that it does have a lot of similarities to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Another book I've read that this kind of reminded me of would be When Women Were Dragons. That's just another book I've read that took place in the 1950s. I don't read a lot of books like this, so my comparisons might be a little bit weak. But When Women Were Dragons also takes place in 1950 and goes into more like the struggles of women in society. This book definitely addresses some of that as well, and how women can only hold so much power, and they have to hold power in these really quiet and undisturbing ways, and they don't have as much sway, especially in such a political city like Washington, D.C. But all of these women are still extremely powerful, but it's in this more muted tone, and I think it reminds me a lot of When Women Were Dragons, just because it's kind of about these women are struggling to accomplish what their goals are, because this is a world set up and designed for men. This is 1950s America. It's very pro-masculine, very it's a different world. It also touches a lot on the Red Scare and this fear of communism. It's more direct in this book than it was in When Women Were Dragons, where when Women Were Dragons, you're getting kind of the younger perspective, where in this book you're getting a lot of the perspective of a wide range of ages, from women in their early 20s to in their 60s and 70s. I really appreciate the the diversity of characters from an age perspective that live in this boarding house, which is, I don't know, I found the perspective. The characters are the best part of this book. The character development of this book is absolutely my favorite part. There will be chapters with characters you don't enjoy as much as characters you do enjoy, but everyone becomes important by the end of the book, which is really nice. The reason I was recommended this book by my aunt is because I read a lot of mystery. I read a lot of Agatha Christie. So this was recommended because there is like a large mystery that's happening that you're kind of unveiling as the book is going on. So there's definitely some mystery elements to this book. I wouldn't say it's very similar to Agatha Christie's mystery work, where it's kind of more you're discovering what happened as you're getting to know the characters, as opposed to like there's a detective who's like looking into it. It's kind of everyone's perspective on a story, and then it wraps up into this perfect bow at the end. But that's why I was recommended it. So I will, if you like Agatha Christie and you want a different kind of a mystery, maybe this book is for you. If you liked When Women Were Dragons and you like this 1950s commentary on women in society, this book might be for you. And if you liked The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I think you will really enjoy this book. I genuinely think like that's the closest recommendation I can give, is if you liked that book, you're gonna like this book. One of my favorite themes is in this book, my favorite tropes, and that's found family. The 7 women in this book who live in this house get so close, and it's so adorable, and I love it. And some of them are grumpy and some of them are like really happy, and they all just have such a great dynamic, and they get close, and you fall in love with all the characters and their dynamic like together. It's just that's a good trope that I like. There's a big emphasis on having secrets and the importance of keeping your secrets as a woman and the shame around having those secrets. Very interesting theme. There's such an interesting thing to comment on consistently throughout this book. There's a big power struggle theme for being women in DC in such a political environment. Power and being a woman and working in these politicians' offices and all sorts of jobs that they do, and kind of that issue. I mean, and yeah, this big, I don't want to give any spoilers. I'm no spoilers in this review, but there's a lot of stuff on the Red Scare, and then also just the post-war sentiments and how it's affecting different people differently. I can't tell you any more without spoiling the book, so just know that that's a pretty major theme in this book, and I found it very interesting to read. The book is obviously very well researched. In the back section there is like a historical note where it kind of goes into the research that went into each character's backstory, which I found really interesting. It even says in that area to not read that historical context until after you've read the whole book, because that kind of spoils it. So once you finished reading it, definitely go through the acknowledgments and definitely go through the historical context, because I found that very interesting. Yeah, I think this book was extremely well written. The development of the characters was just magnificent. It was a very much show don't tell, which I love in a book. You hear me say that I think in every video on this book, is that's kind of the marker of a good book for me, as if I'm figuring things out as I'm reading it, not everything is being told to me. Yeah, it's one of those stories that comes together as you read it, and I really enjoy that kind of book. So yeah. My aunt recommended me this book because this is her favorite author, Kate Quinn. I don't know, if you've read Kate Quinn's works, this one is recommending The Rose Code on the front. If you've read her works and you think I should read more of them, maybe comment and let me know if I should check it out, because I really did enjoy her writing, and I would be convinced. It's just not my usual genre, so I'm not sure if I'm going to read another Kate Quinn book, but I really loved this one. And if I hear enough people saying you should definitely check out her other work, then maybe I'll give it a go. But that's my review of this book. I would definitely recommend it to a very specific reader, but it's a good book nonetheless. So, thanks for watching.